country that I love is being run down, getting chipped away more every day, running the ground. And when our leaders take our freedoms and make themselves exempt, and as my paycheck gets smaller, they feather their own nest. I don't wanna be, but they're making me an angry American. When our politicians vow to keep us safe, and then they open up the borders and say come on in, when the people on their asses getting free rent are the ones that vote themselves more entitlements. I don't wanna be, but they're making me an angry American. The country that I love, the country that I grew up in, is the country that they're trying to undo.
Our founding fathers built this nation a constitution that began with these exact words. Why would they feel the need to write this if it were not true? Why is it so important to our country that we thrive to achieve every one of these subjects? Making sure everyone is safe is one of the government's main concerns. They need to make sure people don't rebel, and when they do, they are served the right punishment. But is everyone served the right punishment? Do we apply the same rules to everyone in our country? Do we live up to the standards that our founding fathers gave us? Do we, the United States, establish justice for all? Justice is the administration of what is just by law. Blackstone's theory: we would rather let 10 guilty men go free and 1 innocent man jailed. When a man or woman is arrested, he or she is read his or her Miranda rights. The Miranda rights are: you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. You have the right to an attorney. If you cannot afford an attorney, one will be appointed for you by the state. The Miranda rights became necessary after the court case Miranda v. Arizona. Miranda v. Arizona is one of the 4 cases where the defendant confessed guilt without being informed of his or her Fifth Amendment rights during an interrogation. This particular court case happened in 1963 when Ernesto Miranda was arrested for being connected to a kidnapping and rape. Ernesto Miranda was not told his rights and did not know he could have an attorney present during the interrogation. Ernesto Miranda was found guilty. However, in 2003, there was the Missouri v. Siebert court case. Donald Rector died in a mobile home due to a fire, and Patrice Siebert was believed to have set it. The police interrogated her, and she confessed before they read her Miranda rights to her. After she confessed, the police officer invoked her Miranda rights, and she confessed again. During court, she tried fighting with the fact that she was not read her Miranda rights right away. The judge overlooked this because she confessed again after the police officer read her rights. These 2 cases occurred 40 years apart. This proves we aren't improving. This is one reason we are not a more perfect union than what we were before, when our nation had just begun. Some of our authority figures are still bending the rules and violating people's rights. Both of these cases had a similar problem. I believe we are not learning from our mistakes. Also, to protect our rights, we have the right to a speedy trial. which is a criminal trial held after a minimal delay. In one incident, Ralph Berry, this law was violated. Berry was accused of a murder he didn't commit. The police arrested him and he sat in jail for 3 years without having a speedy trial. A speedy trial is supposed to happen within 180 days of the arrest. In addition, Alice Brennan said the cruelest irony is police actually found DNA evidence implicating someone else in the murder just 2 days after it happened, records show. But they didn't hand it to the prosecutors, so it was never used in court. The police had evidence that it was not him or wasn't only him, and they decided to ignore it. Habeas corpus is a writ requiring a person under arrest to be brought before a judge or into court. However, in the court case Rasool v. Bush in 2004, 4 British and Australian citizens were captured by the American military in Pakistan or Afghanistan during the United States War on Terror. As soon as their families found out about the arrests, they filed a suit again asking for a writ of habeas corpus that would announce the arrest unconstitutional and that withholding them from an attorney violates the Fifth Amendment Due Process Clause. The United States government said that since the men were not U.S. citizens, they did not have to grant them the same rights. This is outrageous. Establishing justice for all means for everyone. Furthermore, the case Marbury v. Madison is another example why we don't establish justice for all. John Marshall, the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, is the cause of this significant case. William Marbury was a Justice of the Peace and James Madison was just appointed for the position of the Secretary of State. Marshall was supposed to sign a paper and hand it to Marbury to give Madison his commission, but never did. Madison blamed Marbury for not receiving his commission and took the issue to the Supreme Court, where John Marshall was the judge. Marshall could not be biased, or he would have been impeached from the position. If he had a fair justice system, John Marshall's antics would have been caught and punished. Civil liberties are the freedom of a citizen to exercise customary rights as of speech or assembly without the interference by the government. Civil rights are the rights to full legal, social, and economic equality. The difference is that civil liberties are freedoms a citizen has, and civil rights are the essential things each person needs. The Bill of Rights is the first 10 amendments to the Constitution. It states a citizen's freedoms and liberties. There is the freedom of religion, speech, press, assembly, and petition, the right to keep and bear arms, no forced housing of soldiers, the freedom of unreasonable searches and seizures, the right to due process of law, freedom from self-incrimination and double jeopardy, the rights of an accused person, and the freedom from excessive bail, cruel and unusual punishments. In the case The Missouri Knights of the Ku Klux Klan versus Kansas City, the Ku Klux Klan had a radio station that criticized African Americans and anyone who were to help them. They would use foul language to describe the African Americans. The Ku Klux Klan members wanted to expand the radio station into a local television show. The town members hoped to put an end to this nonsense, but the Ku Klux Klan exclaimed that they were using their freedom of speech, which is the First Amendment to the Constitution and the first Bill of Rights. Eventually, the television channel and the radio station were banned, but this shows some people take advantage of their rights and liberties. In 2015, the case Birchfield versus North Dakota became an issue. Danny Birchfield was driving through South Dakota and drove into a ditch. The police believed he was driving while intoxicated. Birchfield failed both sobriety tests and the breath test, and then refused to take the chemical test. He was charged with a misdemeanor for refusing to take the chemical test. Birchfield says this violates his Fourth Amendment right against no unreasonable search and seizures. If Birchfield doesn't want to take the chemical test, why should he be forced to? This is an example of how we take away people's civil liberties. Women's suffrage and civil rights are other examples of how we don't secure the blessings of liberty for all. Elizabeth Cady Stanton noticed that she had no rights and no say when she tried to speak up for African American civil rights. Elizabeth and Loretta Mott hosted a convention called the Seneca Falls Convention in July of 1848. This was the first women's rights convention there was. Over 300 men and women came to support women's suffrage movement. Later, Title IX was introduced to society. Title IX was first an organization to raise awareness of the women's rights movement and to help promote equality between men and women. It later became passed a law in 1972 that requires gender equity for boys and girls in every educational and recreational program that receives federal funding. This is necessary due to sex discrimination in jobs, schools, and sports. In 1971, Ida Phillips was told by the Martin Marietta Corporation that they were no longer hire women with preschool-aged children. However, what they failed to tell Phillips was that they will continue to hire males with the children of the same age. This is the definition of sex discrimination, where they will hire a man instead of a woman even if they have the same qualifications. Also, this violates the Civil Rights Act of 1964. In addition, in 2003, Desert Palace Incorporation fired Katharina Costa. Costa says she lost her job due to sex discrimination. Desert Palace Incorporation told Costa she could not prove it, and the court dismissed the case. However, Costa states that there were discriminating events leading up to the firing. 32 years apart, and the cases relate to each other. This proves we do not learn from the past and prevent it in the future. We don't value everyone the same. We don't secure the blessings of liberty. What does it mean to promote the general welfare? It means the government is concerned about the health, peace, morality, and safety of its citizens. Does our government do this? In the documentary Inequality for All, Robert Reich explained how the upper class became so wealthy and the middle class is struggling to get by. When an upperclassman has a huge income, he or she doesn't go out right away and spends it all. They save most of his or her money to spend it on something else later. The middle class has significantly lower wages than the upper class, and therefore has to spend their money right away in order to go about day-to-day life. As the middle class is spending, the upper class is saving, all the money is disappearing. We now realize that the upper class has it all in their bank accounts. Now that we have noticed it, what is the government doing about it? Nothing. They are doing nothing to help us middle class. Our middle class is turning into a lower class, and our government isn't doing anything to prevent it. However, we do have Obamacare, but this isn't helping a lot of people. The lower class is still getting bigger and bigger each and every day. Also, recently, in most states, we have legalized gay marriage. This was a big step in accepting people for who they are. There were multiple pride parades and GSA associations popped up all over the country. However, currently North Carolina is refusing to let gay people marry. This is an example of how we tried to fix something that was hurting some people, and at least one of our states is outright against it. We can't improve our country if some people aren't willing to try.